In the heart of the ancient world, the sands of time whisper tales of a society grappling with the fundamental questions of justice, morality, and human dignity. One such tale, etched in the annals of history, is the legal code presented to the Israelites, a people who had just been liberated from the harsh yoke of Egyptian slavery. This code, delivered through Moses, the great lawgiver, sets the stage for a society that, despite its flaws, sought to balance the scales of justice and protect the vulnerable. The laws, found in the book of Exodus, offer a glimpse into a world where the lines between slavery and freedom, life and death, and right and wrong were often blurred. Yet the effort to define and enforce these boundaries was a testament to a people striving to build a just society. The first laws in this code deal with the regulation of slavery, a practice that was not only common but deeply ingrained in the social fabric of the ancient Near East. The Israelites, having recently experienced the brutality of slavery themselves, were now being asked to regulate the institution in a way that would prevent the kind of abuses they had endured. The code begins with the regulation of Hebrew slaves, a term that, in this context, serves as a reminder of their own recent past as a people of slaves. The law stipulates that a Hebrew slave should serve for 6 years and then be set free in the 7th, a clear limitation on the duration of servitude. This was not the kind of lifelong, hereditary slavery that was common in other societies. Rather, it was a form of indentured servitude, a temporary state that could be exited. The law also recognizes the human rights of the slave, ensuring that they are not reduced to mere property, but retain a degree of dignity and autonomy. For instance, if a master gives a slave a wife, and the slave develops an emotional attachment to her and their children, the law provides a path for the slave to remain with his family by choosing to remain in servitude. This choice, however, comes with a symbolic act: the piercing of the slave's ear, a mark of permanent commitment to the household. This act, while seemingly harsh, was a way to formalize the slave's decision and protect him from being forced into a decision by his master. The code also addresses the treatment of female slaves, who were often sold into servitude by their fathers, not for labor but as concubines. The law requires the master to treat the slave girl with respect, providing her with food, clothing, and conjugal rights. If the master fails to fulfill these obligations, the slave girl is entitled to her freedom. This provision reflects a recognition of the inherent worth of the slave girl, even in a context where her primary role was to serve as a sexual partner. The laws move on to address more severe crimes, such as murder and bodily harm. The principle of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, is a well-known example of the lex talionis, a principle of retributive justice that was common in ancient legal codes. However, the application of this principle in the Hebrew code is nuanced. While it might seem harsh and unforgiving, the intent was likely to limit the spiraling cycle of violence that could occur in a society where revenge was a common response to wrongdoing. The law also recognizes that not all harm is equal, and the severity of the punishment should match the severity of the offense. In practice, many Jewish commentators argue that these laws were meant to be interpreted as requiring monetary compensation, rather than literal physical retribution. The code also includes provisions for the protection of property, such as laws against theft. A thief caught in the act of breaking into a home at night could be killed without penalty, a reflection of the dangers of such a crime. However, if the theft occurred during the day, the thief was required to pay double the value of the stolen goods, a penalty that served as both a deterrent and a means of restitution. If the thief could not pay, they could be sold into servitude to make good on their debt, a practice that, while harsh, was a way to ensure that justice was served and the victim was compensated. The laws also address the liability of owners for the actions of their animals, particularly oxen, which were valuable and potentially dangerous. If an ox was known to be a gorer and the owner failed to take precautions, they could be held responsible for the death of another person, a provision that underscores the importance of taking responsibility for one's actions and the consequences of negligence. In the end, the legal code presented through Moses was a reflection of a society that, while far from perfect, was striving to create a framework for justice and fairness. It recognized the inherent worth of all individuals, even those in the most vulnerable positions, and sought to protect them from abuse and exploitation. The code was not just a set of rules, but a guide for a people who were building a new society, one that would be founded on the principles of justice, mercy, and the inherent dignity of every human being. In the sands of time, the echoes of these ancient laws still resonate, a reminder that the quest for justice is as old as human civilization itself. The journey continues, a never-ending effort to create a world where the scales of justice are not only balanced, but tipped in favor of the vulnerable and the marginalized.